woke up this week thinking Copilot on your TV was gonna be the dumbest headline. Like
See,
I would have
and
gone to
then
Vegas, put a few
and
dollars
then
down on the
Tuesday
table,
came.
and been like that's
Yep.
it. That is it. That is the dumbest thing possible.
Okay.
However, Dell woke up and said, "I bet I can do something better."
Yeah. I heard
And
it. I had heard about this back in December, and I think it's fair to say that every single person that's been confronted by this rebranding has said, "Are you nuts?" Like HP did this same sort of thing last, I don't know, August or whatever. And also the same justification, right?
mhm.
The AI PCs are different enough. We feel like we got to blah blah whatever. And they came up with this logical kind of thing. And in that case, I was like, yeah, but you guys have some pretty good brands, I think, like Spectre
Mhm.
and
Dragonfly and
Dragonfly. Which to those two things, someone from HP said to me, it was pointed out to us, and I think these names, I guess, don't resonate in certain parts of the world, but that our two of our most popular brands are a Ghost and a Purple Bug. I was like, okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. But
I'd like to
anyway,
read you a PC that can now be purchased after Dell's.
oh my god, dude, I know this is awful.
You can go buy if you have, and this is the top end stuff. You could go buy a Dell Pro Max base, or you could go buy a Dell Pro Max Premium or a Dell
Yep,
Pro Max Plus.
yep, stupid. It's really bad, and the there's so much. So it's not just XP. I focus on XPS because to me XPS
It was a great brand.
is the one Dell brand that rises to the level of ThinkPad or ThinkPad X1 Carbon, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like,
XPS 13 was always in that
yeah,
category of MVP of laptops. It's always been a great device.
yep, and I feel like they're losing something here. Now, in the commercial space, they have other brands like Latitude that are well known, but again, I don't think anyone really cares about that stuff too much. Precision, like workstations, right? But um, one thing I don't. They must release this information every quarter, and I report on this every quarter. But I really took note of this in the past quarter. Dell in particular, but not unique among the biggest PC makers. The vast majority of their sales are to businesses, not consumers. It doesn't mean that the consumer market's unimportant. Dell owns, I think they own Alienware, right? And that brand's not going away. It's kind of a wholly owned subsidiary, but it's got its own thing going on. Um, but and prosumers like creatives or gaming PC enthusiasts, whatever, are important in the sense that those are high margin products, but they're really not a big deal for them. So like for us on the outside, it's like, oh man, like you just killed like your only really, really good brand. And I do believe they did. I think this was stupid. I mean, why not just use XPS for the good? Anyway, so whatever. They turned this thing into bland nothingness that's really hard to understand what is what.
Mm-hmm.
It's appealing to business customers, honestly, other than the fact that I think most of them are pretty used to buying whatever Latitude C
Yeah.
or D or whatever they're on now level devices for decades. I don't know. It just seems
I mean, the
it's
fact that
just
they now have a product,
classic.
and the product, so you could go to Dell and buy the Dell Base or the Dell Plus. Like, it's Dell Plus is the name of the entry level laptop now for consumers. Dell Plus or Dell Base.
Yeah,
What the
the
Dell?
brand is
I
literally
mean,
Dell. It's like Dell, dude. You're getting a Dell Pro Max Plus, whatever the hell it's called.
yeah, Dell Pro Max Premium. Now, the question becomes like, somebody should walk into Michael Dell's office, not literally, and like hold a knife up and be like, what's better, Premium or Plus? You got 10 seconds to decide because nobody will know.
Yeah, I mean HP has a similar problem. It's like, what's better, X or Ultra?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they've already kind of screwed it up. Like one of the first, I'll just go look at this now. One of their first Ultras, if you will, I think is the OmniBook, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so Ultra for HP is the highest of the high. It's the as good as it gets. And actually, that one is an AMD Ryzen base. That is an Ultra. Never mind. So what did I get wrong? Maybe they didn't screw it up. What's the other one called? Because they have like a what's it called? A Snapdragon, whatever. What the hell's it called? Also,
AI
they're
Plus or quote AI
right.
PC, Copilot PC.
Oh, it's that one's X. Okay, actually, it's X. I'm sorry. So that's probably okay. Although positioning that thing so highly, so X is the next one down. So Ultra is the top for them. X is the next one down. I don't remember the rest because who would? Who cares? Um, but that was like kind of a surprisingly bland PC, especially for Copilot Plus PCs based on Snapdragon. It's the only one I've used where I was like, like it does all the stuff. It's fine. Like but there's really not much differentiating it, per se.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the one to me that was a little bit like it's fine. It's fine. It's good, but I don't know. Anyway, branding is hard. Can I tell you?
I mean, the thing that kills us is we both know
Actually, it is an Ultra.
that there's going to be sprawl within these SKUs because that's how these companies operate. And so eventually there will be the Dell Pro Max Plus or something where they have to like differentiate it again into another tier. And it's like, well, you're like the mid tier, but the high mid tier instead of the mid tier. And it's going to be you know what?
Just saying SCR2 is available if you want to go with that. I completely screwed up this thing before. So Omnibook is HP's consumer brand. So their Omnibook Ultra is based on AMD Ryzen something. Awesome. Like that one's awesome.
Which is even better because it's not based off of the Core Ultra, which Intel just...
Right. That's true. Yeah. And then the HP EliteBook is their business core, core brand. Ultra is the Snapdragon version. And honestly, it's not really an Ultra. I wouldn't call that Ultra. It's just kind of, I mean, Snapdragon X isn't a name. It's X. I don't know. It's so weird.
There was a bunch of it. There were yesterday for like a Windows. If you are a genuine Windows fan perspective, yesterday was a great day because there was Dell doing whatever Dell's doing, but the Nvidia announced their new stuff, the 5090, which is $2,000. However, I think most people are going to want there were a lot of people probably angry last night. The 5070, which will be $549, assuming anybody can get one of these, by the way, because I'm assuming they'll sell out, is said to have the same level of performance as the 4090, which was $1,500 last week. So you've got that going on. Qualcomm came out.
What's the point? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Qualcomm came out with a new lower chip. So you'll be able to get an ARM chip starting in like the $600 price range for laptops. And then Intel came out and announced their chips, and AMD came out and announced their chips. So,
by the way, between AMD and Intel, there were approximately, I'm gonna just rough this one, 37 different, maybe 57, whatever different processors. Like it is a nightmare. But here's the little the key for the map for the Intel stuff. Everything they just announced as Core Ultra Series 2, which remember the original was Lunar Lake, which is the one-off. They're never doing anything like that again. Are all Arrow Lake class CPUs, which means they are what would have been everything they released this year, but they had to do the Copilot Plus PC thing and make Lunar Lake special, which means they are follow-ups to Lunar Lake with I'm sorry, Jesus. I can't, these names are awful. Sorry. Follow-ups to Meteor Lake, which is the year ago processor family, which means they have crappy MPUs that don't qualify for a Copilot Plus PC. So they just announced like 30 something, whatever the number is, processors. None of them are Copilot Plus PC. Not one of them. In fact, the base one, the lowest end version, whatever that thing's called, 200U probably, because their naming thing is also terrible, is not even the same. Skymont, is that the right name? Core, that's an Arrow Lake, I don't know, but it's like the older version. So like that processor is actually kind of garbagey, frankly, but goddamn our industry, dude. Like seriously, it's just the worst.
Oh, to keep the worst times going. So this will sound on the cover like it was a good thing. However, during AMD's announcement, they said that they are changing up how they are naming their graphics cards. Now, they are changing them up to basically align to what Nvidia does, which is, 70 is like the general consumer, 80 is like, hey, you're an enthusiast, and then the 90 is like the high-end prosumer stuff, very expensive stuff. And so AMD is now aligning that 70, 80, 90 mentality. However, it was like 3 years ago that they changed their own naming to kind of differentiate themselves. And now that they're competitive once again, they want to be matched. So my
Right.
assumption here is that once they realize they're not competitive, then they'll eventually bail out of this naming convention so that you can't do the easy comparisons. But here we are.
Oh, I like it. I almost walked myself into this a little earlier in this conversation, but I'll just throw this up as kind of a softball in a way. I don't know the exact numbers here, but let's say that like PC gaming is some percent of overall gaming. And let's
Mm-hmm.
forget about casual gaming because I think that's a different thing entirely. But between consoles, which I guess I would include Wii because whatever, but and then obviously PlayStation and Xbox, and then PCs of all kinds, right? To me, like whatever the numbers are, the sweet spot for PC gaming today, I bet, is still 1080p at hopefully like super high, high frame rates, right? And that hopefully HDR. But from there, you kind of go, and then depending on the graphics card, you get different sorts of like frame smoothing and maybe resolution scaling and whatever it is. But in many ways, the sweet spot is still kind of 1080p, which of course it is on the Xbox as well, because you know terrible. But we're at the point now where you could buy anything and play games at 1080p. I
Mm.
just reviewed a ThinkPad T14s on with a mid-level AMD chip, integrated graphics. Now it doesn't run 1080. Is it 1080? It's technically 1920 by 1200, but whatever, 1080p esque. It's not 60 frames a second. It's probably 42, 45. I forget where it landed exactly, but it's somewhere in there. Which is fine, right? I spent weeks playing Call of Duty on that thing, and it's pretty great, actually, right? Now, if you have a higher end AMD chip, integrated graphics again, you can get like over 100 frames per second in the same game with high resolution, higher quality graphics. So, yeah, there's all this like Nvidia, Radeon graphics cards, different kinds, these big things that look like are the size of a heatsink or the size of a desktop computer. But I have to wonder, like, I think we're I think we're hitting the tail end of this too. I think that stuff just eventually doesn't completely go away because nothing goes away. But as far as being the thing that drives, we've talked about it. We've hit a wall with graphics. Like we're not going past 4K, really, not really, like for
Yeah,
high,
not 4.
there's
4K
no
is
point.
probably an upper bound for a while.
But even like it's almost like I think the realization here, and this is like I think this is going to define this past decade is for gaming is, Nintendo, they might have been onto something, you know, because look, I know a lot of the games are cartoonish and stuff. I don't mean it like that, but I'm just saying like Call of Duty at 1080 basically can be pretty freaking great, like on a nice display too. So I don't know. I don't know. I look at this stuff and it's like you could spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of configuration, and whatever special app optimizes it, and go in and play with all the settings and all this stuff, or you could just play it at 1080p and it works great.
I'd say
I don't know.
1440p is probably
Yeah, okay. I mean that's
maybe,
fine.
but it's not 4K. 4K is not mainstream PC gaming by any means.
Yeah, yeah. 1440p is a good. I mean, and maybe those are kind of the tiers, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
1080p's base entry level. Hey, here we go.
yeah.
What does Dell call it? Hold on. We can do this. We have the technology.
Yep.
1080p would be base. 1440p would be plus, and 4K
Hmm.
would be premium.
I'm getting a Dell graphics card.
Yeah, that's the Dell Pro Max. Is the 4K.
To me, the biggest thing in gaming the past year is the integrated graphics coming into their own and
Mm-hmm.
being completely viable. Like, not like you really have to struggle, unless you're using a Qualcomm computer. But other than that, and I feel like they're going to get there too. But it's astonishing. Even Meteor Lake, which is kind of garbagey, right? In for game is okay. Like I haven't actually looked at one past couple of months now for games, but like, well, that's not actually true. I guess I did. No, I have done one, but it's fine. I mean, the newer stuff's better. AMD is way better. Definitely go AMD.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that stuff's great.
Yeah, AMD has a new super high end chip that'll probably be obscene pricing now that they have pretty much the
Well,
gaming high end crown.
yeah, and they're doing something kind of incredible where they scale the TDP of their processors now. They don't have specific, like 15 watt, 54 watt, whatever it is. And HP in particular, and I feel like Lenovo stuff will be out today, but HP anyway is out. They use the same chip in what is essentially an EliteBook laptop. It's actually branded ZBook, whatever, Firefly, and in their workstation, which is not like mini like a NUC, but is relatively small. And that thing is freaking awesome, dude. It's beautiful looking, but it's also the performance is nuts. And it's this, I'm again, the brands are tough, but it's like, I think they also use Pro and Pro Max or Max Pro, however they do it, on AMD chips. So they're taking the Zen 5 thing they did, mobile and desktop, but even the mobile chips scale enough that you can put it in a desktop and it's freaking awesome. Like, this boggles my mind. Like, we've hit something here that I think is very interesting. There wasn't much going on with processors in the x86 space for
A few years, and now all of a sudden you got
been a
NPUs
while, right?
and Intel fighting for its life, and
It's gotten very interesting.
it has. And hopefully, we'll see Nvidia enter the Thunderdome later this year.
I know. I was hoping CES.